Now we're going to look at the spinal cord and spinal nerves. Again, spinal cord part of central nervous system, spinal nerves part of peripheral nervous system. So looking at the spinal cord, let's get right into it. So the spinal cord, the first thing we need to know is where it starts and where it ends. So if we remember this big hole here, the big hole that we saw at the base of the skull, so the word for hole was foramen, and the word for big was magnum, or at least one word for big. So that's where the spinal cord starts. So begins at the foramen magnum. And just before that, we have the medulla oblongata, right? So the last part of the brain is the medulla oblongata. And then as it exits the foramen magnum, it becomes the spinal cord. So we know where the spinal cord starts, which is at the foramen magnum. And we need to know the bony landmark where it ends. So the bony landmark where it ends is going to be between vertebra L1 and L2. So we have 7 cervical vertebrae. We have 12 thoracic vertebrae, and we have 5 lumbar. So we're going to count down to the level of L1 to L2. So let's count C1 through 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's C1 to 7 vertebra. So now let's count 12 thoracic vertebra. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So that gets us T1 to T12. And now we need 5 lumbar. L1, L2, L3, L4, L5. Okay? So this artist did a good job because the end of the spinal cord is called the conus medullaris. And you see that right here. So see how the spinal cord ends in this little cone-shaped tip? That's your conus medullaris. The rest of the spinal cord ends up being this horse's tail looking thing called the cauda equina, which I'll come back to in a second. But the point is, the end of the spinal cord, in most people, it's going to end somewhere between L1 and L2. Okay, between lumbar vertebra L1 and L2. So we have the start is at the foramen magnum, and the end is between vertebra L1 and L2. Okay. So this is a cross section of the spinal cord right here. On average, this thing is about half an inch across. Half an inch. That's not even the width of a dime. A dime is bigger than the spinal cord. So it's very thin. It's very hard to access the spinal cord. It's very well encased in bone, which for good reason, because it's so important, but it's so thin and delicate.